Hi Mia, thank you for joining. No worries. Is it Mia or Maya? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. It's Maya. Hi Jennifer, thank you for joining. It's Mia. I'm doing well, Jennifer. Thank you for asking. How are you? How's everyone doing? I'm glad. Oh, okay, Mia. Oh, I'm glad I'm saying it correctly. Thank you. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Melody. It's Mia, but it sounds like Mia. Okay. Shout out to Luna Mia. Shout out to Briley. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Isabella. Welcome. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Junior. Shout out to Winter. Shout out to Eclipse. Shout out to Emmy. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Akira. Shout out to Alex. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sandra. Thank you for subscribing. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Shout out to Hope. Shout out to Brittany. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Rhett. Shout out to Alex. And Adeline, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Harry Potter. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Jacqueline. Shout out to Amber. Shout out to Quetzali. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to Yasira. Shout out to Stacy. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Deacon. Shout out to Lila. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Ty. Shout out to Arena. Shout out to Drew. Shout out to London. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Ali. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Shout out to Zoe. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Esme. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Jason. Shout out to Roosh. Shout out to Tamana. Happy birthday. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying my shout outs. So that's the last page. Let me go get another notebook. Give me like 10 seconds. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. got a new notebook. Give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience. Okay, this is a new notebook. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Huda. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Cassie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Irene. Shout out to Karen. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nash. Shout out to Christina. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Debbie. Shout out to Tulia. Shout out to Hope. Shout out to Olivia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Cindy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Maya. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Ari. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Noelle. Shout out to Alani. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Martina. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Jesse. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Anvi. Shout out to Meme. Shout out to Livy. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Sonia. Shout out to Lana, or is it Lana? Please let me know if I spelled it correctly. Shout out to Hudson. Shout out to Tyler. Thank you for subscribing. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel. Shout out to Maggie. And if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Aisha. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Leilani. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Chris. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Juju. Shout out to Shay. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Elias. Shout out to Jasmine. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jax. Shout out to Martha. Shout out to Shadow. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mayan or Mian. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Brinley or Brinley. Oh, okay. Brinley, can you spell your name again? Sorry, I messed up. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Brinley. Thank you so much for rewriting your name. Shout out to Tatiana. Happy birthday. Shout out to Aaliyah. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Safia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kira or Kyra. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mimi. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Kathy. Shout out to Tanya. Shout out to JC. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Willow. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Or I think I could do another row right here. Shout out to Sariana. Shout out to Fortnite. Happy birthday. Shout out to America. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Leave a like if you are enjoying the shout outs. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Molly. Let me write it again because it kind of messed up right there. Shout out to Molly. Here we go. Shout out to Marin. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Penny. Shout out to Zainab. Shout out to Esther. Shout out to London. Shout out to Trico. Shout out to Helen. Shout out to Jody. Shout out to Maggie. Happy birthday. Shout out to Zaylee or Xylee. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Rain. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Olivia. Happy birthday. Shout out to Dylan. Get well soon. Shout out to Noah. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Allie. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Gloria. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Rahi. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Gasoline. Shout out to Derek. Shout out to Carlos. Shout out to Demi. Shout out to Delaney. Shout out to Shelby. Shout out to Araceli. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Carmen. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Lana. Shout out to Kanishka. Shout out to Wylan or Waylon. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mary. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Lena. Shout out to Grust. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Mia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ivana. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to George. Shout out to Violet. Shout out to Andrea. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Madeline. Shout out to Saizy or Saizy. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Heidi or Haiti. Shout out to Therese. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Kenny. Shout out to Camila. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ariadna. Shout out to Razi. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Lexi. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Luz. Shout out to Corbin. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Also, thank you for your patience. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to JC. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nazli. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Emmy. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Blaze. Shout out to Omar. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Cheryl. Shout out to Janila. Shout out to Willow. Shout out to, oh my god, sorry, the chat's going by really fast. Shout out to Tinley. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Piper. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Delilah. Shout out to Carmen. Shout out to Zaina. Or Zaina. Shout out to Cherry. Shout out to Salad. Shout out to Gael. Shout out to Hadley. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Kristen. Shout out to Goru. Shout out to Tadeo. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Darlene or Darlin. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Hugo. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Chloe. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Jessie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Tony. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mackenzie. Happy birthday. Oops, I don't know if I spelled it right. Mackenzie? Oh yeah, I did. Shout out to Fiona. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Hagen. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Liliana. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jaslyn. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Wilmy. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Annika. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Raham. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Hazelin or Heislin. Shout out to Aizion. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Mark. Shout out to Sarai. Shout out to Lionel. Shout out to Faven. Shout out to Lois. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Quinn. Shout out to Porny. Shout out to Leonard. Shout out to Araya. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Ezzy. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Marco. Shout out to Chillman. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Yana. Or Yana. Shout out to Winter. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Tanjil. Shout out to Sebastian. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Check out my channel if you haven't. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Lee. Shout out to Trusha. Shout out to Avi or Abby. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Pippa. Shout out to Santiago. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 200 likes. Shout out to Jean. Shout out to Toby. Shout out to Hazelin. Shout out to Desia. Oops. Or Desaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Gemma. Shout out to Miriam. Shout out to Bryn. Shout out to Milani. Shout out to Peyton. Shout out to Eliza. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to Eugene. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Shanali. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Cashlyn. Shout out to Sage. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Tegan. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Odin. Shout out to Shanice. Shout out to Cassidy. Shout out to Mocha. Shout out to Alessia. Shout out to Shelly. Shout out to is it Xavier? Xavier or Javier. Shout out to Grace. How do you spell it? Grace, can you spell your name again? Shout out to Vicky. Shout out to Alexandra. Shout out to Hunter. Shout out to Emma. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Syri. Thank you for subscribing. Syri, sorry. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Cecia. Shout out to, there you are, Grace. Oh no, I spelled it wrong. Grayson, sorry. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Grayson. Shout out to Loic. Shout out to Aisleen. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Harmony. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 200 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Hilda. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Kay. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to Eleanor. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Manha. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Parker. Shout out to Aaliyah. We're almost at 200 likes. Only 4 more likes. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Sylvia. Oh no, I spelled Sylvia. Sylvia, can you write your name again? I'm so sorry. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Dallas. Shout out to Neka. Shout out to Gavin. Oh, Gavin. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Bakang. Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Also, check out my channel. I post other content there. I hope you like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Zanaya. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to Brita. Shout out to Carson. Shout out to Malik. Shout out to Gia. Shout out to Equestrian. Shout out to Javon. Shout out to Nick Har. Shout out to Skyly. Shout out to Raul. Shout out to Emilio. Shout out to Melody. Shout out to Mariah. Shout out to Zariah. Shout out to Shrutika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Braylee. Shout out to Kimberly. Shout out to Rylan. Shout out to Kiergan. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Journey. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Matt. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Nala. Shout out to Salvador. Shout out to Mariah. Shout out to Roman. Shout out to Rita. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Rhea. Shout out to Lydia. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Farah. Shout out to Lamies. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Toby. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Layla. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sadi. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Sydney. Shout out to Kiara. Shout out to Fern. Shout out to Diamond. Shout out to Genevieve. Shout out to Rain. Shout out to Angel. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Vimasha. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to DJ. Shout out to Price. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to Grant. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Link. Shout out to, excuse me, Mateo. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. We're almost at 300 likes. Only 40 more likes. Thank you so much for being here. On to the next page. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Halana. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Amberly. Shout out to Larry. Shout out to Leah. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Jesse. Shout out to Mario. Shout out to Zammy. Shout out to Annabella. Oh, shout out to Annabella. Shout out to Freya. Shout out to Nola. Shout out to Ariel. Shout out to Molly. Leave a like. We're almost at 30 likes. Shout out to Mitchell. Shout out to Alani. Shout out to Bradley. Shout out to Carter. Shout out to Omar. Shout out to Aya. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Xander. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Remy, or Remy. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sailor. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Nancy. Shout out to Esmira. Shout out to Jenna. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Ishan. Leave a like. We're almost at 300 likes. Shout out to Eliza. Shout out to Elvis. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Lola. Shout out to Alvia. Oh, how do you spell that? We're almost at 300 likes, only 10 more likes. Shout out to Atilaya. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Payson. Shout out to Zariah. Shout out to, excuse me, Joe. Shout out to Alexandrine. Shout out to Rumi. Shout out to Olympia. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Carson. Shout out to Gabriella. Shout out to Constantine. We're almost at 300 likes, only 6 more likes. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Helena. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Zaylee. Shout out to Nevea. Shout out to Aurelio. Shout out to Brayden. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Juliana. Shout out to Ina. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for 300 likes. On to the next page. Shout out to Jaylee. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Lana. Shout out to Malachi. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Aniston. Subscribe if you are enjoying the live streams. Shout out to Roberto. Shout out to Nash. Shout out to Born. Shout out to June. Shout out to Kavishka. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Aiden. Oh, Aiden with the E. Shout out to Suri. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Emmanuel. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my live stream. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Paula. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Josue. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Angelina. Shout out to Ginger. Shout out to Jaden. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sumi. Shout out to Leanna. Shout out to Salim John. Shout out to Anastasia. Whoops, I messed up. Shout out to Moses. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Melody. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Brayden. Shout out to Adeline. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Andrea. Shout out to Milena. Shout out to Gray. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to Liam. Shout out to David. Shout out to Corey. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Esther. Shout out to Davis. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Jefferson. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Halima. Shout out to Marcus. Shout out to Ada. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Celia. Shout out to Jalissa. Shout out to Kenna. Shout out to Sabrina. Shout out to these people. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. On to the next page. Excuse me. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Alondra. Shout out to Kiara. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Julie. Shout out to Maite. Shout out to Kaya. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Nalia. Shout out to Elin. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Amzi. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Trevor. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Janai. Shout out to Oliver. Shout out to Mika. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Mai. Shout out to Rowan. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Jordy. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Daisy. Shout out to Ashlyn. Shout out to Penny. Shout out to Arturo. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Phoebe. Shout out to Aurora. Shout out to Ashley. Oops. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Angelina. Shout out to Jaina. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Vale. Shout out to Raphael. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Junior. Shout out to Arrow. Shout out to Annalena. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Happy birthday. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Kirk. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Kane. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to Thea or Tia. Shout out to Sonia. Shout out to Bree. Shout out to Sadaf. Shout out to Noah. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 400 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Rachel. Shout out to Finn. Shout out to Rika. Shout out to Cree. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Eliana. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Vicky. Shout out to Liz. Shout out to Amia or Amaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Caleb. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the shout outs. Also check out my other content. Leave a like. Let's try to get to 400 likes. We're almost there. Shout out to Celine. Shout out to Juno. Shout out to Tona or Tana. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Cash. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Anaya. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Aubrey. We're almost at 400 likes, only 21 more likes. Shout out to Julius. Shout out to Gaiden. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Thea. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Peyton. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Adabaya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Sadie. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. We're almost at 300. Shout out to Talia. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Jewel. Shout out to Hazel. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Magdalena. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to Alina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Kenzie. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Audrey. Shout out to Adela. Shout out to Luz. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Callie. Thank you for subscribing. Subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Kathy. Shout out to Faith Lynn. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Kenzie. Thank you for subscribing. Oops, messed up. Kenzie. Shout out to Aurora. We're almost at 400 likes. Only one more like. Shout out to Jessica. Thank you for 400 likes. Shout out to Mika. Shout out to Julie. Shout out to Wilson. Shout out to Stephanie. Shout out to Sandhya. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Kay. Shout out to Marib. No, Mirab, sorry. Shout out to Lincoln. Shout out to Hannah, sorry. Shout out to Tamara. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Brantley. Shout out to Rayan. Shout out to Emery. Shout out to Gina. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Junior. Shout out to Zara. Or Sarah, sorry. Shout out to Lexi. No, what is it? Simone? Lex. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Alina. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content and if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to William. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Nomi. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Emma. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Amia. Thank you for helping me spelling out your name. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Mackenzie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Nora. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Paula. Shout out to Kurt. Shout out to Lisette. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Gerson. Shout out to, excuse me, Ammon. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Maya. or Mia, sorry. Shout out to Cherish. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sari or Saray. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jeanette. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Ikam. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Clarissa. Shout out to Liliana. Shout out to Marcelo. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Man. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Jinu. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Nai. Shout out to Nash. Shout out to Sadie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nurana. Shout out to Joel, sorry. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Christiana. Shout out to Hannah. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Nico. Shout out to Gojo. Shout out to Hazley. Shout out to Marie. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Trey. Shout out to Isabel. Oh no, Elizabeth. Shout out to Shakira. Shout out to Kay. Shout out to Jasmine. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to Will. Shout out to Kinsley. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jaser. Shout out to Nyla. Shout out to Nadim. Shout out to Zyla. Shout out to Casey. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you like my content. Also check out my other content that I make. I hope you like it and you subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Urelda, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Manon. Shout out to Savannah. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Colton. Shout out to Emmanuel. Shout out to Jaina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Leslie. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Susie. Shout out to Macy. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Yoonchae. Shout out to Heaven. Shout out to Sabnam. Shout out to May or Mai. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Dahlia. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Anissa. Shout out to Preston. Happy birthday. Shout out to Traylon. Shout out to Min. Shout out to Harley Quinn. Shout out to Briella. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Jayla. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Lennon. Shout out to Kimberly. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Hamza. Shout out to Judah. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Miley. Shout out to Xiomara. Shout out to Gabriella. Shout out to Evangeline. Oops. Shout out to Rain. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Kamar. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Jung Ling. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Eid, or Edie. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Elsie. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Cat's Eye. Shout out to Ezzy. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Betty. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Shout out to Alexandra. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Brittany. Shout out to Malia. Shout out to Shandi. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Natalia. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Whitney. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the live streams, the shout outs. I will do another shout out tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Subscribe so you know when I live stream. Okay, so please subscribe and give this live stream a thumbs up, please. Thank you so much. Have a great day or have a great night. Thank you for being here. Take care.